Hey, 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 good morning, everyone. A little late on the draw, 8:02 on a Wednesday, I believe so. I still can't forget that day. I gave the wrong day to someone and they ran out and took out their trash, but it was Tuesday and I said it was Wednesday. So I got to make sure I got the days right. Anyway, training is on networking on social media, especially Clubhouse. So training 11 a.m. Friday. Don't forget to join me for the Breakfast of Champions show on Clubhouse at 6 a.m. Pacific time. Fridays are busy, man. I got office hours at 5 a.m. Pacific. Jordan Schultz, how are you, my friend? Good to see you there. So I got office hours at 5 a.m. on Fridays. 6 a.m. I have the Clubhouse Breakfast of Champions. 11 a.m. I have training. And if you miss any of it, you can check it out on Spotify Entrepreneur and every platform. Just download the playbook, share it, like it. The playbook, it has millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, and all of my content there as well. Just grab it. Anyway, let's take some questions as we are moving into the Wednesday. Here we go. What's a recent lesson you've learned from a podcast guest? I had a great podcast guest today. You're going to have to check out this one. I bought Brian Leach, the CEO, and we talked about the several different things about being an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur that we didn't know. And so looking at that, we got Dan Copen coming in here in about 2 minutes. I see Dan's here. Let me take a couple more questions as we get down to it here on Wednesday. Is February your favorite month? Every day is my favorite day. Every day is my favorite month. So I make the most by the what, the who, the how, and the now. So all months are my favorite. I love so many different things in every different month. Finding the light, the love, and the lessons in every day, month, year that I am participating and enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. Say that 10 times fast. What's the most effective way to displace your ego in a positive way? I don't believe in displacing your ego, right? I believe in identifying the ego, stopping when I identifying it, dropping down to center, and then from there, rolling in the right trajectory. Brendan, I see you're here as well. Thank you very much. We'll get started here now. I am going to bring in my friend Dan Copen. He's the co-host of the Past Our Prime podcast. He's an entrepreneur and a brand advocate for Squad Locker. You can check him out at Past Our Prime show. Anyway, let me bring in, hi Mia. Good morning. There's my famous TikTok daughter, Mia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Look in here. Oh, I'm going to have to go up to Dan. Excuse me 1 second. Dan Copen. I got a Cope is here. I wonder why it's 67. I got to ask him that. Maybe he was born in 67. We'll see. All righty. Dan Copen, Pastor Prime. Hey, Danny, what's going on?
Good, David. How are you?
I'm terrific. 67 baseball number, or what's the 67 for?
67 was the football number.
Oh, football number.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
better.
When you get to the Patriots, you don't get to pick your number. So just showed up. It was in the locker. I was like, yep, that works for me.
Even Brady didn't get to pick his number. He was too busy telling Mr. Kraft that it was the best pick he's ever made.
Oh, no doubt about it. But I guarantee he might have had a little bit of input there if he was a first round pick.
Yeah. You get. I've been in those games before, and always difficult too when you have a veteran kind of over the hill quarterback, and you have a young first pick in the draft wanting that number. Then it gets really interesting, right?
Well, there's some side deals that are probably made at that point.
Yeah, remember in the old days, people would pay cash. Guys would
Oh
pay
yeah.
cash to get in baseball and football, hockey as well. Uh, anyway, Dan, you've kind of mixed it up now in the podcast game. You look like you're in a booth there as well. Where do you see a difference? You've been involved in traditional media like myself for so
Right.
long. The podcast game to me is totally different than when I had, my Angels baseball radio show or working with Gal Media on Sports Blender. Radio, it was its own different beast. Now you have podcasts and you have so many different variables from that podcast. What have you found to be the biggest differentiator from traditional media to this great big advent of the podcasting world?
I think it's freedom. Really, you get to talk about what you want. You have all these producers and everything setting up your agenda, and then you have your media hosts, which are, basically news guys. And the one thing that I found funny doing the original, or just the mainstream media, the sports analyst role, I found the main guys that they would sort of set the stage. They'd ask you a question. They'd answer that question how they felt it was, appropriate to answer. And then you just go ahead and answer the question. But a lot of times, you have the same opinion. So you sort of have to answer the same way, which got kind of frustrating. Hey, you asked me the question, but now you're going to answer it. Now you just, it's just sort of repeating. So that frustrated me a lot early on.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot less in the podcast world, what I call just stupid questions. I think a lot of the TV side of things, they're losing engagement because you still have the sideline reporter at halftime walking over to the coach, asking probably the dumbest. I mean, you're a professional football player, played at BC, and I'm an average Division III football player, and those questions drive me crazy. So, coach, what do you think about the first half?
No doubt.
It kills me where podcasting allows you to ask, really detailed questions that people are interested in. You're interested in revealing, illuminating questions on kind of frequencies that we don't know. Now, you, like me, have an aggregate of special guests that you're able to call upon, those relationship capital. One of the things that I've learned in that respect is that the biggest names aren't always the best guests. Right. In the same Absolutely. Respect. What were some of the surprise, or give me one or two of surprise guests that you've had on that maybe people haven't heard about that just brought it and have been some of your top downloads?
You know what? We have a good one coming up tomorrow with Matt Castle, and Matt Castle, spent 14 years in the NFL, played with 7 different teams, had a tremendous career without even starting at quarterback at USC in college. He's a 7th round draft pick. He's a good buddy of mine. And those are the type of guys that just want to have on. They're interesting. They're fun. They're enthusiastic. And Castle would be bouncing off a wall if we had him here in the studio. And he's a great storyteller. And when you have those guys on that are more on a personal level, those guards come down. And you're able to, really get him talking and telling some good stories. And when you talk about those stories, some good lessons come out of it as well.
Yeah, I was blessed. Leinart and Castle both were coaches I owned part of Clarkson Dreammaker with Steve Clarkson when we were with those quarterback gurus kind of developing over the pre-Whitfield days with quarterbacks. But Leinart and Castle, great stories. In fact, when he was coaching, they still were at SC. I never would imagine Matt even making the NFL because
I think he was just as surprised as you were.
Yeah, I still think he should write a check to Belichick because and Brady, because that one season in New England, just gave him the biggest contract and set him apart into the Kansas City deal, et cetera. And, I think it's a typical side of football that a lot of people don't know, that if you get that opportunity, you can literally make a 12, 14-year career out of it, especially as a quarterback.
I think we found out, especially lately, how important that quarterback position is. And God forbid something happens to number one, you have to have a viable backup. And Matt Castle was always that viable backup. Yeah, he went to Kansas City and he started. And there's a few offensive linemen still in New England that are still waiting for a Christmas present from him, from that, from that contract. So, he went out, he played his butt off that year. He earned that money and, and stuck around, probably 6-7 years after that as a backup. He had to travel around a little bit, but as a backup quarterback, you can make really good money.
And also one of the things, in your podcast that I really like is that it's kind of like the Napoleon Hill side of things. You talk about those stories, but there's always lessons in there. You have this great insight and lessons that apply not only to sports for people, but utilizing our pastime to generate lessons for life. And, some of those lessons to me, I think I found from you and your guests to be invaluable in what I teach to help empower other people as well. I also look to, you've been a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I always tell people it's not luck to get on a championship team, no matter what your position or how long you played or whether you were the star. It's not luck. There's a collective conscious about championships and winning. Through those lessons of the pastime, How do you feel about that collective consciousness that was created in New England, and how have you moved that forward into your life? That you've learned those values and disciplines that I see with guys like you all the time. I know Satema Gali is one of your boys as well, and he carries the
Yeah.
same collective consciousness that you do, and most people wouldn't know who he is.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of great lessons that you can learn from sports and being part of a team at any level. It really doesn't matter if it's high school, college, or pro. And you talk about the Patriot way. Well, the Patriot way is just a way to live your life. It doesn't have to be on a sports team. Accountability, work ethic, perseverance, all those things that you use with the family and in the business world, they apply, and it doesn't really matter. But if you just you take those things that you learn and you put them to whatever you're doing, that's what you want to do. And, we're grinders here, and, we're starting off and we're early on in this podcast. And we're trying to learn and get better as we go. But that's one of those things that you do. You just come in and work every day. You try and figure out how to make things better. And that's what we did with the Pats. And we had 53 guys that had the same mindset, and we all went in there and tried to get better each and every day.
Yeah. The other side of the podcast game, I know, with you and Tip both, is you're now going on these podcast swaps, right? For me, it was so funny. Like, I started off, I didn't really understand. I had a radio show, and then they're like, you should make it into a podcast. In fact, most people don't know this. My first radio show was like Street Cred with D&V, and the V was for Vency Glenn. Do you remember who Vency Glenn is?
No, who's that?
So exactly, 12-year NFL guy, right? Second round draft pick from Indiana State. Safety, played for Minnesota, the Saints, the Chargers, worked for Topgolf. He's really close friends with Tiger Woods. My favorite Vency Glenn story, you'll love this because you're in the realm. So Tiger Woods is one of his best friends. Tiger signs with Upper Deck. Part of his deal was a 5-year, like $250,000 business development job for Vency. So in his deal, he hooks up Vency, and basically Vency was such a train wreck, like they never let him in the office. They literally, he got a letter the day 5 years and 1 day was up saying, thank you very much for your service. But I love Vency because he could tell stories, and his advice, his family's from Louisiana originally, but he was just a huge impact. And then, we had a radio show. Then Leyritz, I worked with Jim Leyritz from the Yankees.
Yep.
And then they started talking about this podcast. I'm like, I don't understand. I literally didn't understand when I started my podcast how people would listen to it. Right. And now it's like turned into a huge brand with TV shows, podcasts, etc. Where do you want to take your podcast? Because like you said, you're new in the game, not too late. Trust me, not too late at all. But where do you want to take it? Because podcast is just, to me, the beginning of all types of different content that you can amplify.
You know what? I think we're having fun with it right now. And I think that's the most important thing for us. Tip and I are both employed by Squad Locker, which is a apparel uniform fitting company that really does custom work. And as we've seen, people are buying groceries over the internet now, and they're getting their booze shipped to them. So, we want to make it at Squad Locker as easy as possible to outfit these teams, these sports organizations, these schools, and get them the gear that they need. And, there's not anybody else that's doing what we're doing out there. So if we can improve the name and get the name of Squad Locker out there, we can have fun. We can teach people whatever lessons that, our guests have or we have, bonds that, you form from teams. It doesn't matter how often you talk or see each other. They're always there. So when we bring these guys on, it's like just going back in the locker room. That's what we want this podcast to be. Like, you're just in the locker room with a bunch of guys messing around.
I love it. And you guys are doing a good job so far with it. Now, did you grow up in Boston or in Massachusetts?
No, I grew up in Pennsylvania.
And then went to BC though, right?
Went to BC and didn't have that far of a commute when the Patriots drafted me in 2003, which was definitely nice because there's an adjustment when you go to a new city and finding out where you need to go to get a good cooked meal or anything. There was that transition on my part was very, very lucky in that sense.
Well, yeah, and just as well to go to the Patriots because I, obviously traveled to
that
Boston.
Worked out too.
Yeah, I traveled to Boston a lot with, and not that Pennsylvania isn't a great sports town as well, but I'm from San Diego, so I remember landing before COVID into Boston, and they have a huge billboard, 120 days since our last championship.
Yeah,
And,
no,
if you're from Cleveland or you're from San Diego or some other cities, you like instantly get pissed off the minute you land and see that billboard driving into the city in complete jealousy of what it must be like to have all of those championships.
no, this is definitely a pro sports town. And I found that at Boston College. There's no doubt about it. They love their pro sports here. Funny story about that is we were playing Tennessee. I forget what year, 03, 04, 05, one of those years down there, and probably October, and it was playoff baseball. And McNair had just gone in for a score, and the place got louder than we've ever heard it. Like people cheering, and you look around and it's like, what's going on here? They just scored. You guys shouldn't be happy about this.
Yeah.
What happened was they put the Red Sox score on the board on the jumbotron. They saw the score. Red Sox were up, and the place just went wild. It was like, you're not even watching the football game right now.
Yeah, McNair probably was more confused than anyone.
No doubt, no doubt. We all definitely were confused.
I'm gonna let you go, but I gotta tell you a quick McNair story, since obviously that's what your podcast is about and mine, is share these stories. So Warren Moon, my business partner, I ran Lee Steinberg, the sports agency. Warren and I have been close friends. Well, we're business partners. Somebody comes into the office crying, "Oh my God, someone's killed Warren." I was like, "Are you?" I mean, I'm like in complete. This is my best friend and business partner, so you can imagine, right? Well, ends up, the kid thinks that McNair was Warren Moon. They got him confused, but literally came into my office with 100 people in the office screaming, Warren was killed. It was one of the most terrifying things ever. And I knew McNair, and that also upset me. Right. But I have to be real candid. It didn't upset me as much as my business partner and best friend being killed.
Hey, that's how bad rumors get started. And nowadays with social media, it doesn't take much to create a wildfire.
Thank God, everyone didn't have their cameras out, and this goes wild, because it would not have been a pretty scene. Anyway, let's go back. I want everyone to come and listen and download your podcast. It's Past Our Prime Podcast, as enterprise brand advocate for Squad Locker, which is going to suit up all of these different teams, which is much needed, much appreciated. I haven't seen as many people having that type of mission, so I'm really encouraging everyone, follow, help, support this podcast, because it's going to do a lot of good, which is obviously my mission. They can find you at Cope67. I had a brain fart and said baseball. I meant football. I obviously knew that.
Yeah. No.
But I illuminate. I screw up all the time. Anywhere else people can find you, at Cope67, the Past Our Prime podcast. Where else can people find you?
You can follow us at Squad, or you can check in the Squad Locker website. What else do we have? At Past Our Prime Show on the Instagram. But really, it's all about just creating time for these coaches and these mentors and these administrators to focus on the children, focus on their family. Let us do the dirty work. You guys get more time. That's the most important thing that we have. So we're going to take care of everything else and get the gear to the people that need it.
Well, thank you for helping me with my mission of empowering over 1 billion people to be happy, and suiting them up and sharing your great lessons and stories with us. Look forward to doing more with you guys. Give me a call if you need anything, guests, swaps, whatever you want. I'm here to help you, okay?
Appreciate it, David. David, be well.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All righty, cool. Dan Coppin, got him on here. Coppin, sorry. I'm screwing up everything today. You got to check out that podcast. There's a lot of podcasts out there, but that one is different. So make sure you get to the stories and the lessons, because that's what we try to do here. And obviously his humility and knowledge and the relationships. I'm a guy, check out that Matt Castle one. And I'm a big fan of Matt. Just known him since he was in college. Great kid. All right. Anyway, I'm moving and grooving. I know Brendan is here. He's here waiting. He was here early. And hopefully I'll get him on here. Brennan Wurzma has a quick question. He's a commercial pilot and host of the Get Wealth podcast. We got all the podcasters on today, my friend. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Great to see you, man. Give me a little background on the Get Wealth podcast. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Yeah. So I thought of the idea about 6 months ago. I read the book Think and Grow Rich, decided I want to expand my network and learn from entrepreneurs or business owners. I decided that a good way to do that would be trying to sit down and talk with them for an hour. So I started the Get Wealth podcast, and the first couple interviews I did, I went to Paradise Valley in uh, Scottsdale area in Arizona, and I would just knock on mansion house doors and ask them if they wanted to do an interview. And so I did a few that way. And more recently, I've just been reaching out to people on social media, emailing your people, trying to get on things like this. So it's been fun and a learning experience. So yeah.
Well, you could have started in a better place with Think and Grow Rich. You know, it's a book that I read every single day still. I'm in the book Think and Grow Rich Legacy. In the movie Think and Grow Rich. So there's a variety. I mean, I live and die by Napoleon Hill and think his wisdom is great. So that's why I wanted to have you come on to encourage people to help with that wealth mindset, the Get Wealth podcast. But I think you have a question for me, so I thought I'd help you out.
Yeah. So the question I had was, so for me being just about done with college and kind of getting ready to start into more entrepreneur type of endeavors, what advice would you give to someone who's just graduated college and looking to become an entrepreneur?
Well, you know, to become an entrepreneur, the key is to ask for help, right? So it's everyone has a great idea, but I think it's more important to find people as an entrepreneur that are already in a position that you want to be in. Obviously, some of these uh, lessons are in Think and Grow Rich, but I'm looking for people that are sitting in a situation that I want to be in, and I'm asking for their help. I'm asking to shadow them. Uh, I'm, I think by far that's the best way to accelerate the learning curve, to pay the dummy tax early. The easiest way to get to where you want as an entrepreneur is find someone that's there and ask them for directions. And especially as entrepreneurs, older, more successful entrepreneurs get the greatest joy by giving back to young entrepreneurs and helping them. They also like to find the great ones that have a need to be what they must be and fund them. So it's a easier way than creating a deck and finding funding is to mentee yourself within the context of someone that you want to be like. My first step out of college would be to find who I want to learn for and ask them for help.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, even just asking people like you what they did. Yeah, so as far as what your first steps were out of college, did you end up having a mentor? And would you recommend having like a personal relationship with someone to guide you along?
I would have three mentors. I had, you know, inadvertently, I went to law school, and then when I graduated, I got a sales job and took the vice president of sales, became my first mentor. And he forced himself on me. He was a strong personality, an Italian guy from New York that took a liking to me. And I didn't have to ask for help. He just poured it down. Lou Lombardi was his name. But I think Lou helped me more than anyone else, you know, because I didn't know what I didn't know. All I had was ego and arrogance. I thought I was the best salesperson in the world and knew everything I needed to know about business. And here I am, 53, and it's almost embarrassing to think the way that I portrayed how much I knew when I didn't know hardly anything. And now I try to mentor people in that respect. I would suggest having three mentors, not being afraid to ask. The worst thing that can happen is someone that says no. The best thing that you can ask to me is, do you know anyone that can help me? It's a little softer way of saying, hey, can you help me? Or do you know anyone else that can help me that's like you, that sits in a situation I want to be in so I can ask directions? I always say shadow someone, work with them, and then have them watch you and guide you as a mentor. Those are the three stages of mentorship to help you be the most successful you can be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess on that note, if one day eventually you'd be interested in coming on my podcast, that'd be incredible. So appreciate your time today, man.
I'd be happy to come on your podcast, and I'd be happy to mentor you as well. Congratulations on graduating school. I know it's not the best year to be a senior in college, and I respect and admire everyone that stuck to it to finish out what they promised to do in this terrible pandemic when it comes to our academics. So, you know, Brendan, just reach out to me. You can find Brendan at Brendan_Wiersma, Wiersma. And your podcast is Get Wealth Podcast. Go ahead, search it on YouTube and other platforms. Check it out. And like I said, I'll be more than happy to come on as a guest and mentor you, okay? Thank you, B. All right, check it out. The Get Wealth Mindset. It's so amazing. You know, I dream. I saw Evan Carmichael here. I know he's a Think and Grow Rich guy. If you haven't checked out Evan Carmichael, at Evan Carmichael, YouTube, Evan Carmichael. He's my YouTube mentor. But it's amazing how many people Think and Grow Rich, written how many years ago, has impact and still impacts. Check out Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. Check out Think and Grow Rich, the movie. I'm in both of those as well. Probably the most important book that I read. Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention, Course in Miracles, that book as well. All right, let's bring on our next guest. We are back to back to back. This is amazing. Brian Tate, Oats Overnight, oatsovernight.com, launched a nutritious and convenient solution, which I need for breakfast. What's more important, convenience or nutrition in breakfast?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with convenience.
I love you already, man. You're honest.
You need an element of both for sure. I mean, nutrition's important, of course, but you can balance that throughout the day. Convenience really gets you going and starts your day in that huge leg up.
You know, it's so funny. He's taken one of the most basic food groups in oats and added efficiency to it and convenience to it. And no pun intended, it's an overnight success. You got all these fans already popping up going, I'm a huge fan of, I'm thinking, you're a huge fan of oats? This guy, Brian, must be doing it right. But it is, you know, a very interesting thing to distinguish yourself through productivity, efficiency, as you have, because there probably isn't anything more boring than oats, right?
Yeah, that's I think the whole joy of this. The category is so stale. There hasn't been
No pun
innovation in
intended.
decades. Yeah, seriously, no innovation in decades. It's led by Quaker, Bob's Red Mill, these behemoth incumbents, and yeah, it's exciting to be doing something different, and in a really big way. Oatmeal shakes.
But you know what I like about some of the stale, no pun intended, or traditional foods that we have is that we have evolved in nutrition where our food, to me, it was medicinal. When Quaker Oats started, right, their food was medicinal. It was a natural medicinal food. And we moved to our foods became disease, bagged, folded, all the different things, including, I'm still not sold on, all of the plant-based processed things of being, just because it's plant-based, of being healthy, because if there's so much processing in it, it now, to me, falls in the disease category, not the medicinal category. You've been able to maintain the traditional health aspects and nutritional aspects that oats has had, like I said, forever. But now you've added the modern day convenience to it, instead of trying to create some modern day processing of, gluten-free or this or that, or preservatives, or, different sugars. And it's just simply nutritious and convenient. Where do you think, in your business model, that nutrition still keeps the primary purpose that people eat oats because it's a healthy breakfast?
Yeah, so also we add the protein too. So the product actually has 15-ish ingredients, a lot of different ingredients per flavor. We manufacture these, so we've built them ground up. And yeah, the 20 grams protein combines really well with the complex carbs. It aids in slower digestion, keeping you full longer, helps with blood sugar. A lot of benefits. I mean, like you mentioned, it's been around for a long time. We just kind of reworked it with a modern twist.
Yeah, and explain the modern twist of the overnight aspect.
Yeah, so overnight oats are not new. Muesli goes back, probably centuries, and what we've done is really where my journey began is mason jar and spoon. Mixing it up. If you Google overnight oats, that's the category term. These people make these really crafty, artsy, fruit delicious milk combos, but they're not convenient. They're delicious. They're ready when you wake. But now you're carrying this big brick of a mason jar around, which certainly doesn't fit in a cup holder. So that's where it started. Basically, just taking that product and reforming it to be on the go, spoon free, higher protein, and just checks all the boxes.
But what's so interesting, I love entrepreneurs. You were a professional poker player. Like you were in the fast lane. You're in the exciting side of the unhealthy living of, booze and cigarettes and poker and casinos and you shake your head or
Yeah.
online, but still it's a different lifestyle. What world is it that you sit there as a professional poker player and then end up being an entrepreneur? You guys have made over $5 million in oats. Where was that transition?
Yeah, I mean, I played poker 12 years, and by the way, I was going on the track to go to med school early on, so poker itself was a big pivot for me. So not not afraid of that. But
Not
no,
neither
it
am
was
I had
yeah,
the same mom. I was going to med school too, until I realized you had to be in a hospital to be a doctor.
exactly. No, my brother went that path, but with oats, I was just doing it. I was relying on it for my nutrition, my routine. I was living between Vegas and Los Angeles when I was playing poker, and it was so crucial for me in the morning. I kind of had an epiphany one day. Poker was great, but I didn't want to be 40, 50, 60 years old playing at a poker table. So I really thought about where my life was headed and what I wanted to build. And, Oats Overnight was literally right in front of me.
And through that poker side, there's so many entrepreneurs that have spun off. I've had Phil
Yeah.
Helmuth, Dan Fleischman, just a variety of friends of mine. Where in the analysis side, that people will tell you being an entrepreneur, or at least negotiating, has capabilities of a poker player in it. Where do you see the similarities of being an entrepreneur and a poker player? What capabilities have you transcended over to the other side?
Yeah, there's a few. Some really transcend, some don't. The biggest ones, though, are definitely the way you look at risk and decision making. With poker, you have to take all this information in and make quick estimates. It's not like you're breaking down numbers at the table on every hand. You have to make these quick estimates, and so you're able to make these estimates, be confident in those decisions, know you made the best decision with the information you had at the time, and you don't look back. Like if the river comes and something bad happens, it's the same as if like a shipment gets stuck at the port or something. If it's out of your control, all you can do is take notes, build that into your decision making next time, and move on. But there's no dwelling. It's just forward motion, and I think that's been the biggest impact to my entrepreneur journey.
I love that because I think there's two components I see is one of the biggest missing components in entrepreneurship and investment is people don't beforehand take into consideration timing and risk tolerance. Where I find poker players who become investors and entrepreneurs, I see this through Fleischman's Elevator Nights and all the poker players that come through there. They have a really great grasp on timing and risk tolerance, which
Yeah.
is essential in both of those aspects. But the other side is less known. Poker players to me are some of the most consistent people. I think in order to effectuate the statistical success of being a poker player, you have to be consistent in not only playing, but also your strategy and your discipline. And I think number one attribute of a poker player who becomes an entrepreneur is that you're used to 7 days a week,
Yeah.
utilizing your discipline, your strategy every single day. And it's not, well, I'm going to put in 16 hours today and then tomorrow, I'll take a weekend off. Poker players aren't like that. They're good ones because, in order to let the numbers and the statistics work for you, you have to play and be consistent. I think the same thing holds true in raising money and making money and being in business is it's a 7 day a week activity you get paid for. Now, I can see you shake your head. You agree with the consistent side, but
Absolutely.
that also applies to the perspective of playing long. And I think, how does that, strategy of playing long, how long-term perspective also play into you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so you nailed it. You definitely get it. In poker, they say one long session, as in it's not about this session or that session. You can't finish your sessions with, some sloppy play. That's all factoring into your year, your 5-year win rate. So you look at it like on that big picture, and as you know, that's how statistics kind of boil out. But yeah, exactly. That's exactly the same thing. As long as you're making these small incremental steps, and every day you're doing your best, you have your schedule, you're being efficient, you're getting your downtime, and make sure you're maximizing your efficiency in those up times. That's really what it's all about, is just performing consistently over a long period of time.
If I can ask a personal question, because I'm always curious of poker players. My dad was a compulsive gambler, mostly craps and other games than poker. It wasn't big yet. as he was one of those old school Vegas guys. But I always like to know, what was your best year economically playing?
So I played cash games, so I didn't have these crazy swings in tournaments with like a $5 million score or anything like that. But definitely made very high six figures pretty consistently. I was playing in Bellagio and played a bit with Dan Fleischman, so I know these guys. But yeah, it was a
Did,
pretty consistent, surprisingly.
do you ever play the one-on-one high money cash games like with Sean and those guys there in LA?
Yeah, I know Sean really well. I usually didn't get invited to those types of games. I just had to play in the casino.
You'll love this, and then I'll let you go. So, I had a lot of money when I was young, and everyone saw me as a gambler. Like just my personality, right? Because I had great
Hmm.
cars. I flew to Vegas, back and forth. And so I would get invited to the big Beverly Hills money games, the West Hollywood money. Like sometimes guys would challenge me for $1 million to sit down one-on-one poker. And I would go home with my wife and laugh because I'd always, pretend as if, yeah, I'll do it, but something else was going on.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
I am the horrible poker player because I would have to be consistent at it. Like I know statistics, I know math, I know timing and risk tolerance. I probably could do it, but I wasn't willing. It's kind of like golf. I know I could be a much better golfer, but I'm not willing to do it every day in order to
you're right.
effectuate the statistical success that's necessary. But I had a really
Absolutely.
good time with all of your friends because they all thought I was a big money player, and somehow my name got in those circles. I think Fleischman probably perched it up there, but I don't think in my life I've made more than $500 playing poker. It was
Yeah.
really, for a guy who's been invited to $1 million one-on-one game, that always makes me laugh. All right, so Brian, where can people? I know it's at Oats Overnight is the company. Where can people find you as well?
Yeah, you can just go to oatsovernight.com and Amazon as well. We also just launched Wegmans nationwide 10 weeks ago. And so we're in all Wegmans grocery stores and looking for a few other big channels that we're going to be announcing in the next month.
Well, you got, protein included and most importantly, some extraordinary flavors as well. So you've taken old, boring oats away from the guy with the hat on, and now you made it cool with the poker players. So thank you so much.
Well,
Convenience and nutrition. You got to check it out. Oats Overnight. Brian Tate, thanks for coming on.
thank you so much. Have a great one.
Talk to you soon, brother. Say hi to my friends.
Will do.
Take care. All right. Man, we learned a lot today. Timing and risk tolerance, consistent, persistent behavior, whether it be from Dan to Brennan to Brian, all different spaces, all with the desire to be what they must be. Let me take a quick question. We went back to back there. Most interesting person you've met on Clubhouse. I think Greg Cardone. He's on there a lot. Elon Musk was on there, but there's been extraordinary people overall. I'm a big Clubhouse fan. I'll be on there today as well. Friday, 6 a.m. is my big show. It's the Breakfast with Champions, and 6 a.m. Pacific time. 11 a.m. is my training on networking, including how to network on Clubhouse. So that'll be good for you. If you want my books, guides, exercises for free, if you want anything from me, join my text community, 949-298-2905, or email me. I will send you a signed book, pay for shipping. Blaine will help me send it out, right? Blaine, you'll get me to sign it and send it to him. I see you there. David@dmeltzer.com. All of my stuff can be replayed on the playbook. Millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, all the lessons, all of the trainings. Just download the playbook, like it, share it with your friends. You'll get it. If you have any questions, david@dmeltzer.com. I get back to you to myself. All right, everyone, let's kick some butt this week. We're halfway there. I'm loving it. You're loving it. Remember, most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. I'll see you tomorrow.